Hi, and welcome to the GrowVC Everyone Funding Startups podcast. This week, I'm your host, Paul Higgins, GrowVC's network manager, and I'm joined by Mohan Belani, director of E27, which is a media organization focused on the Asian technology startup industry. Mohan, good morning and welcome.
Hi Paul, good morning. Thanks for having me on board.
It's a pleasure. So why don't we start by just going into your kind of personal background first. Where have you come from, and how have you got involved in E27?
So I was born in Singapore, and I spent some time in Silicon Valley in 2006, 2007, and E27 really started out as a labor of love because we wanted to help build the startup and internet ecosystem in Southeast Asia. You know, there was a very strong ecosystem back in Silicon Valley where I was based, but when I came back home, there wasn't really anything. So we kind of had the opportunity to kickstart that whole ecosystem in Singapore. And interestingly, the term E27, actually means entrepreneurs 27, and the number 27 comes from an essay Paul Graham wrote about how the best internet entrepreneurs to invest in are those of the age of 27 and below. So I guess we kind of borrowed that idea and it stuck with the company name.
That's fantastic. I'm 28, so I've just missed the boat apparently. So I mean, you're quite active in finding out what's going on in the Asian tech startup industry. But what things does E27 cover typically?
So we focus on internet companies, internet startups, specifically for the Southeast Asian market. It's a market that we are personally very passionate about, and it's the market that we have where we spend a lot of our activities. We don't just focus on Singapore. We cover like Indonesian startups, startups in Vietnam, startups in the Philippines. And one of the things that we do really well is in running startup and tech events. So the events that we run cover this entire region, not just in Singapore alone. And we've actually operated in I think over 6 countries now across Southeast Asia. So we're very active across the region, although we are 100% Singapore based.
Okay, and you've also run conferences, the Echelon conferences, and I saw that the one you ran in 2010 had over 70 attendees from 20 different countries based in Singapore. It was all about investment pitches and technology showcases and so on. And you have another series of Echelon events coming up, right?
Right. So the Echelon event actually started out as an experiment in late 2009 to see if we could have an Asian tech conference, an identity of our own. And we started out with about 150 people event. And the 2010 event that you referred to had about 400 to 500 people, and this was mainly regional attendance. And it was a Singapore only event. And last year, we made a push to do regional events. So it was the first time ever that the company had events across 4 countries. And we had a collective attendance of slightly over 2,000 people. We had events in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Hong Kong, as well as Jakarta. We used the platform and the brand to kind of reach out to startup communities across the region, and it's even bigger this year. We've expanded it to 6 countries this year, and we're having it in Singapore, Jakarta, Manila, Taipei, Tokyo, and Vietnam. So it's really gotten to be a very strong regional tech startup brand, and we're very glad to be part of this whole opportunity of bringing together the startup ecosystem across this entire region.
Fantastic. And what kind of organisations or what kind of entrepreneurs are you trying to attract, or what kind of people are you trying to get to come along to these events?
So we mainly look at internet-focused companies. So anything to do with Web 2.0, mobile, social gaming. Occasionally we accept, or we even bring in like enterprise companies, but that's quite rare. We look at social networking companies, platforms, e-commerce marketplaces, and stuff like that. So the area that we cover is actually quite broad, and we get anywhere between 200 to 300 companies applying, and then we filter them down, and we'll finally pick 50 companies to showcase at the Singapore event. And we do this selection in a merit-based system. So startups actually don't pay to exhibit. And the platform is available to them for free, but we're very careful on how we select them. So for the local satellites, right, we actually have a judging panel, composed of local investors and local entrepreneurs. And then, so that way, right, you get the local experts being the judges of all the local events. And that filter happens over a period of a few months, and the final selection is made to all the local, to all the companies to exhibit in Singapore. And the key is, we're not just looking for companies, we're looking for investment. I think we're basically looking for the best of the breed and give them opportunities like partnership opportunities, because we get a lot of digital agencies, a lot of governments, and tech companies coming at our events. Funding is a big part of the event as well, so we actually bring in like anywhere between 1 to 200 investors to just come in from all over the region. I just exchanged emails with a Middle Eastern investor this morning who was actually keen on looking at investments in this region. So we really bring together investors from all over the world to look at these startup companies. And of course, we bring in a lot of media. So if you go to our website, we have a ton of media partners all across the region. And these guys help to cover the startups, to get to give the startups exposure to the various markets that they're looking out to, and really, help the startups grow and enter into various markets around the region. So we try and provide opportunities for various angles and various types of startups.
That's great. It sounds like there's a lot of excitement about the industry where you're based. How would you assess the strength of the tech startup industry in Singapore and in Asia more broadly?
I think the startup scene in Singapore is really early. It only really started in the last 6 years, and the government has been a major supporter of the startup ecosystem. And the amazing part is we have a lot of foreign angels and foreign investors who are coming in and setting up funds and getting a lot more active in this region. Joey Ito was one of them, who was one of the very early angel investors who was active in Singapore. And now we have amazing investors like Amit Anand from Jungle Ventures. We have Vincent Laurier from Golden Gate Ventures, and Paul Brager, who was also part of IO Ventures, who is partnering with Vincent. And we even have Dave McClure, who's actually active in Singapore and around the region as well. So I think Singapore has really been the amazing melting pot and focal point for the startup growth in this entire region. The rest of the markets like Jakarta, the Philippines, and Vietnam, they're also very exciting startup hotspots, but things are just about starting out for them. So they're probably a few years behind Singapore in terms of the maturity of companies and the activity of investments. But Jakarta is a very big hotspot for startup companies, mainly because it's an amazing market, very large opportunity for mobile and e-commerce companies. So you have a lot of traditional investors based in Jakarta that are actively going into internet investment over there.
It's very, very interesting. One of the things that we talk about at GrowVC is trying to allow entrepreneurs and allow startups to get the same access to startup expertise, to investment, and to potential co-founders and all those support networks as as people get in places like Silicon Valley or New York or London or other